Hey, beautiful peeps. Even though I had plenty of trouble with AIG and Hammy Boy last time, I noticed they took out all my clips of them, and I'm sorry about that. So this time I'm going to try to remedy that. Because, Ken, no matter how much you try to shut me up, I am not going to shut up. So you might as well stop this ridiculous campaign about shutting up everyone who disagrees with you. Now, for those who don't know, the FBI does allow people to respond to videos and use clips of those videos as long as they are critiquing them. And I probably could have. And while you're thinking about it, if you're new, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button? And if you've already subscribed to me, make sure you're still subscribed because for some reason YouTube loves to unsubscribe people. Also, if you're new here, I'd like to thank you very much for giving me a chance. And for my fans and subscribers, thank you so much for coming back. You are the lifeblood of this channel. And now, with that, let's get on with the video.
Now, you can get these other combinations. I like to use these combinations, little a's, little b's, little c's, to represent our degenerate mutant dogs, like poodles. Okay. But anyway, so let's assume that this is a poodle, purebred dog, so you got rid of all that variability. If you breed poodles with poodles, all you can ever get are what? Poodles. Isn't that sad? Now, could you breed poodles together and get back to the original dogs? And the answer is what? No. You know why? You've already eliminated the variability. Can't do that. But theoretically, could you start with the original dogs and again get poodles? And the answer would be what? Yes.
You are one sick motherfucker, Ken Ham. I can't believe people actually listen to you. Look, just because you might not like poodles doesn't mean that people don't like poodles. Otherwise, poodles wouldn't exist, you motherfucker. So much for that unconditional love, hey Ken? But of course, we atheists, actually the people, not even atheists, just people who have their eyes open, know that you hate people in general and hate things in general. So I could do an entire episode on Christian hatred, but I digress. Okay, so your contention is if we breed poodles with poodles, all we are going to get is poodles. Fair enough, but you forgot the key word there. Three guesses on what the key word is there, Ken, and the first two don't count. Um, you don't have any clue, do you? Gee, imagine that. The key word there, Ken, is breed. In other words, humans have a hand in it. If you let natural selection take over, removing humans from the process, then you will get variation, aka mutation, reintroduced into the population. And yes, it will take a long time, but it may get to the point where poodles revert or, you know, change, most likely, into another subspecies of dog. It's just like the cheetah. We're letting the cheetahs repopulate, and we're getting more variability because we're letting them breed naturally. Now, yes, of course, we're going to have to keep an eye on our cheetah population and protect our cheetah population. And it will take a long time, but eventually it'll get to the point where the cheetahs are recovered. You see, Ken, I can see right through your lying tricks. Unfortunately, your blind sheeple can't, because you like it that way. You don't like it when people think, which is why you don't like modern society. I digress. But you are deliberately confusing natural selection for artificial selection. And I know that you are deliberately doing so because I know you have a fucking geneticist on your staff. There is no fucking way she would let you do this without pointing out the deliberate confusion that you are sowing. But you're a deceptive ideologue, and you know, it suits your purpose. That's what deceptive ideologues do. They don't care about the truth, they just lie.
If you took one man and one woman from this audience, how many children could you get without having two with the same combination? That number is so large, it is incomprehensible to us. People, God put that sort of variability in the dog kind, the cat kind, the elephant kind. You get the idea? See, kids in the public schools aren't taught this information. They don't understand.
For traits. Just like Spike, your DNA codes for your traits, and your cells can't function without it. DNA determines how tall you are, what color your eyes are, what color your hair is, or even if you're at risk for certain diseases.
So that when two of the dog kind went on Noah's Ark, they already had immense genetic variability already there in their genes, and so when they come off the Ark, and they start producing offspring, and as they move away from each other, what happens? You end up with different combinations surviving in different areas, forming different species, and they convince kids that's evolution when it has nothing to do with evolution.
You know what, Ken? That's one of the stupidest things you've ever said. And I say something every time you say that, or I try to say something every time you say that, because it's just so juicy. I would expect that you do know there's such a thing as too many chromosomes and too few chromosomes. Take Down syndrome, for instance. It is also called trisomy 21. Yeah, you end up being, intellectually disabled. There can also be extra sex chromosomes, such as in Fragile X syndrome, which occurs in females, and extra X and or Y chromosomes, which happens in males, or only one X chromosome, which is in Turner girls, in which they are missing parts of their chromosomes. My point in bringing all of this up, Kenny Boy, is just to let you know that too much chromosomal material, as well as too little chromosomal material, is devastating for the organisms, which means there can't be all that variability that you say there was in those animals that came off the ark. That is just plain stupid. Now, and I think you know this, and I think you're lying.
Off Noah's Ark. They fell in love. They had to, because there's only two. Okay, so they have an S gene for short hair and an L gene for long hair. S and L together represent a medium hair length in dogs, okay? And then, imagine those dogs move towards a hot climate. And in a hot climate, what happens? Those with long hair and medium hair overheat. They die. Now you're left with dogs with S genes, who only produce dogs with S genes. What's new? a new combination of already existing information. That's less variability than the parents. That's the opposite of evolution.
Whoa there, boy. You are making two very big assumptions. One is that the ark was even plausible. It wasn't, but I know you think it was. Anyway, the second big assumption that you're making is that they took medium-haired dogs. Has it ever dawned on you that maybe they did? Excuse me. They didn't. Even if the ark was plausible, which it is not. I've already gone through this. Everybody in the world except young earthers knows this is impossible. Then you assume, because of your letters there, that short hair and long hair are codominant, and I'm sure they are in some breeds, but probably not all breeds, so I'm not sure about that, but I have my doubts. It just seems like an overgeneralization to me, but I'm not a geneticist. You know who is, though? That's right, Georgia. And why didn't you ask her? This is just lunacy. And then you make this stupid statement about the two dogs on Noah's Ark fell in love, as if that has anything to do with animals doing what animals do. Animals procreate, period. That's what they do. Just a little aside here, humans didn't even marry for love until probably around the mid 1800s, maybe even later than that. Most of them just did it out of convenience and procreation. And then the stupidest assumption you make in these two clips, in my humble opinion, is that mutation isn't part of evolution. Where the fuck did you get that, Ken? Mutation gives the variability on which natural selection acts.
Natural selection involves loss of information, conservation of information, new combinations of information, but not new information generated from matter required for new structures that weren't previously possible.
Now let's pretend that I'm living in London in the early 1800s, right as the Industrial Revolution is starting. Life is swell. My light-coloured body lets me blend in with the light-coloured lichens and tree bark, which means that birds have a hard time seeing me, and which means that I get to live. But it's starting to get noticeably darker around here with all these coal-powered factories spewing soot into the air, and suddenly all the trees have gone from looking like this to looking like this. So thanks to the soot-covered everything, I've got problems. But you know who doesn't have problems? My brother. He looks like this. Yeah, he has a different form of the gene that affects pigmentation.
Ken, do me a favor and sit down. I wouldn't want you hurting yourself. You might want to let Georgia handle this, by the way. Natural selection has nothing to do with mutation. You ought to know this by now. And you know what? I think you do. Also, I gotta ask, what do you mean by information? You people use this word information all the goddamn time, but you never, ever explain what you mean by it. That's a little odd. And I've already said this, but I'll say it more eloquently because for some reason you don't get it. Natural selection does not make the variation upon which it acts. That is mutation. Ken, what the fuck does new information from matter even mean? I don't think you know. Of course, maybe you do and you're just lying, but then, of course, you're preaching to a bunch of kids and, they don't know either, so it's easy to fool them.
Bill Nye believes in one tree. All life is related and we all go back to a common ancestor. In fact, when he was at the Ark last year and I got it on video, I asked him, are we related to animals? And he said, yes. So I said, well, that means we're related to plants too. Yes, because there's only one tree of evolution. I said, that means we're related to bananas. And he said, yes. What makes you think we're not related to a banana? And kind. God made an orchard of life, not a tree of life, an orchard of life. And so you get all these different kinds, and you can have incredible variability, lots of species within a kind, but then horses remain horses and dogs remain dogs. Now with birds, there's a number of different kinds of birds. The word...
Yeah, there is only one tree of evolution. And yes, bananas and plants and animals and humans who are animals. I know you don't think that, but they really are. Just look at the genetics and you'll find out. We are animals. Yeah, we are all related. And I know you know this because you've been told several times. Now, whether or not you want to accept the fact that we are all related is another story. But just because you don't accept that fact doesn't mean it's not a fact. Yeah. So your argument is that God made an orchard of life and not a tree of life. Okay, well, that's an interesting argument. So I guess you've discovered a barrier across which species cannot cross. And I'm curious, Ken, how do you explain the fact that we find fossils that do not fall into any one category? That's strange, don't you think? And it is a big blow to creationism. Even you admit that quote unquote variation happens even in this very seminar. And like I said, renaming mutation to variation doesn't keep it from being a mutation. Come on. Seriously, keep up with things. So, horses remain horses, but there are a bunch of different kinds of birds. What exactly makes birds different? I mean, if there are different quote unquote kinds of birds, which, by the way, you never say what a kind is, then why can't there be different quote unquote kinds of horses? And if there are different quote unquote kinds of birds, does that mean they all came from one ancestor? And does that mean that you're obviously accepting that evolution happens? I know you're not going to answer that question, so I'll go ahead and answer it for you. Absolutely, yes. You are accepting that evolution happens. And you even go a step further because you say all of this evolution happened in 4,400 years, which is impossible.
Types, but God made different kinds. That's exactly what you see. That's what science confirms, which means Noah had far fewer animals on the ark than we realize. Overestimating, we would say 1,700 kinds, but that's because we have those that are only available as fossils and we can't watch them interbreed, and there's
Okay, so let me see if I can make any sense of your blubbering idiocy. And, audience, I may need your help. So, if I'm misinterpreting his blubbering idiocy, please let me know. Okay, so let me bring back something you said earlier. You said earlier that there are different quote unquote kinds of birds. So does that mean that Noah had to have all the kinds of birds on the ark? And what are you calling a kind anyway? You haven't ever defined what you meant by kind. And yeah, I know earlier you said it was around the order or the family. And I said there's a big difference between the order and the family, because you have carnivora and then you have Felidae. And of course, that's just a for instance. So, are you telling me then that carnivora could have been on the ark above Felidae, and then you have like a cat, dog, bear thingy on the ark? But then that puts you in a very strange position, Ken, because you contend that cats, dogs, and bears are different kinds. And you also contend, I've heard it said, that kinds cannot interbreed. So, okay, let me talk to my audience. I'm trying to puzzle through this the best I can, okay? But this is just confusing, even to me, okay? So, if I get it totally wrong, just leave it in the comments. I would much appreciate it. Let's look at a lion and a tiger because they can interbreed. Now, their offspring are called ligers or tigons, depending on which parent is which. I can't remember which it is right now. Okay, but anyway, they can interbreed. All right, but they are different species, even though they're the same genus. Okay, and also, Um, you're talking about kind being on the order. That doesn't make any sense. Because if a quote unquote kind can bring forth after their own kind, then you've got dogs and cats that are in carnivora and they should be able to bring forth. But they can't. Well done, Kenny boy. You just killed your argument for quote unquote kinds. I have to say, that's pretty darn good for a self defeating argument. I mean, hell, I didn't have to do anything. Except, of course, puzzle my way through this self defeating argument and, you know, lose some brain cells in the process, but, eh, you know, can't have everything, can ya? Thank you. Well, friends, I don't want to induce a concussion or a brain aneurysm due to face palms, so I think that's enough stupid for today. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe. Um, Follow me on Twitter. For some reason, I had to get another Twitter account, so if you're already following me, please make sure that you are following me on my new account, link in the description instead of my old account. So, yeah. We're getting invaded by the stupid over here in America. Don't know about anywhere else in the world, but definitely here in America. You know, Australia, if you want Ken Ham back, I'll gladly hand him over to you. You know, I can't deport him. I can't do anything. But anyway, but yeah, I mean, maybe together we can get him to go back to Australia. Then you guys can deal with him. Don't forget to hit the like button. And if you are not subscribed, please subscribe. If you are subscribed, make sure you're still subscribed because for some reason YouTube loves to unsubscribe people. And I will talk to you next time. Bye, everyone. I recently set up a Patreon account. You can follow me over there. I will start releasing patron-only content as soon as I get probably about 10 people. So, yeah, follow me over there only if you are in a financially stable position. If you like what I do, please consider becoming a member of this channel. You can become a member for as low as 99 cents a month. You get custom emojis and you get these debunks early. Well, friends, until next time, I bid you adieu, and may you always have stupid to entertain you. Goodbye.